Hello, boys and girls. Another week coming off the absolute highs of being a Raider fan, plummeting back down to the absolute lows. And yet here we are, still discussing what was probably the worst loss of the year. I don't know if I'll go that far because the Panthers game was pretty tough, obviously. Andy Dalton, not great to lose to that team. I think the reason why this one is hurting so bad is because it felt like we were in control for the first quarter of the game, and then out of complete nowhere, you blink your eyes and you're down 34-10. So there's a lot to discuss. There's a lot to digest, people to blame, decisions that need to be made personnel wise. I think you know exactly what I mean when I'm referencing that. We are going to get into everything. We're going to break down the game fully in detail. We're going to look at the team stats. We're going to do some polls. As always, thank you guys for hopping on and checking me out live on Bleacher Report, or whether you're watching after the fact on YouTube. My YouTube channel is ALLaBorde Raiders. Thank you for watching that. I already have a comment in here from Donuts Duncan who says, until AP says they're going forward with Aiden O'Connell, I am not getting my hopes up. We will discuss that in a second. But as I wait for the chat to fill up here, you guys know the drill. Comment below where you guys are watching. Let me know how you're feeling about the game. Is the season over? Should we tank for Tua? Hashtag, tank for Shador or whatever. Here's what I'll say about the game. And I was watching Hondo Carpenter's 20-minute podcast yesterday, recapping the game a little bit. And he started out the podcast by saying, this is yet another game that the Raiders gave away. And he continued to say, at a certain point, the more games you give away, we're going to have to stop saying we gave the games away and start saying that this is just not a good football team. And I totally agree with what he's saying. This is a game that we were up 10-0 going into score, and then one play completely wrecks the outcome. Completely demoralizes a team. Now, should that happen? No, of course not. I'm not saying that that's the reason why teams should lose if you make one bad play, no matter how bad it is. However, that is what happened, right? 10-0, driving down the field, pick six. Brock Bowers was wide open, pick six. Game's over. Retroactively, looking back, the game is over. So I want you firing away in the chat as we bring up the Week 5 overview here. Let's pull up the stats. Okay. So, wait, hold on. Before I do that, shout out to the floating helmet to my right. This is a gift from my dad. Shout out to my dad. This thing is sick. I don't know where he got it. Maybe the NFL shop? I don't know, but it's awesome. Anyway, okay. Now, as we get into the stats here, let's read some from the chat. I see Fire AP. We'll talk about AP. Should know this was coming, who our QB was going to be. Yep, guys, let's not pretend we were trying to contend this year. We are tanking and should be tanking. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree that we should be. We might be. Raiders owner needs to sell the team. I'm done. Okay, penalties. All right, I get it. People are fired up. So let's talk about this weird box score, because yet again, this is another team stat overview where you just look at it. If you covered up the score and you just looked at the overview, it doesn't make sense that we were down 33-10 in this game. We had more total yards. We had more passing yards. We had more rushing yards. We had more yards per play. We had more first downs. We were way better on third down. We had more total plays, same amount of sacks. We had similar amount of punts. Penalties, we weren't great, but they weren't great either. Turnover battle, and there's your difference. And time of possession, we had more. It's very interesting that it just keeps coming down to the turnover battle, because AP said one of the reasons why we're going to go with the quarterback we go with, whoever it's going to be during the offseason, is because we need the quarterback who's going to protect the football. And as we look over the team stats here, and I throw my first poll out here, we're going to talk about who's to blame. I want you commenting who you think is to blame, voting in this as well. And I've got two options for you. These are the two options as to who I think lost us this game. Fire away right now. If it's somebody else, throw things in the comments. But in my opinion, it falls on AP and Gardner Minshew, and it really falls on Gardner Minshew. So let's talk about AP first. I've seen a lot of fire AP, and I get it. Fans are, especially Raiders fans, and I'm a part of this too. If you watch my video on YouTube, ALLaBorde Raiders, check it out. After the game, I was fired up, and I don't disagree, and I'm not walking back anything I said. I'm just going to try to say it today a little more calmly. AP is not going to get fired, nor should he get fired. This is his first year as the full-time interim. We are 2-3. No one thought realistically we were going to be 5-0. We're hovering around 500. He's kind of dealing with the roster that he's got. We've got a lot of talent on this roster. We also have a problem at quarterback. And AP, I think, he's not perfect, but he's doing the best that he can right now. And we do not want to be the team that just continues to fire coaches after tough starts. Even Josh McDaniels got a whole season before we pulled the plug on him. And then AP came in, and everybody loved AP. And, oh, my God, he's the savior. And now we want to fire him. I think that's just a little too reactionary, guys. We're not going to fire AP. We shouldn't. And the thing is, we got to see what the quarterback situation is next year. Because I think, thinking about it now, you got to give AP a chance to draft the quarterback. And if then next year things go south, or things go really, really, really south this year, then you pull the trigger. And look, he's on a short leash, but that leash is probably the same amount of length as Josh McDaniels. So AP's got a season, and probably next season, to really show what he can do, because it's week 5. Like, you can't just make judgment after 5 weeks, especially when last year doesn't really count. What are we saying in the chat here? Telesco needs to be first on that list. You have Darnold, Fields, Flacco, Winston out there. You gave Minshew 12 minutes. Okay, so I don't think Tom Telesco should be on this list just because of how well he drafted, and I think that's his calling card is the draft. But let's talk about Gardner Minshew, right? Because I kind of said my piece on AP. Maybe you change offensive coordinators. Again, I thought Getsy actually called a good game yesterday. It's not his fault that Minshew's throwing the ball 6 feet over a wide open Brock Bowers. I don't know what you want Getsy to do there. Let's talk about Gardner Minshew, because I just saw people saying, where is it? Busy Bank says you have Darnold, Fields, Flacco, Winston out there, and you gave Minshew $12 million. Gardner Minshew, how do I say this? I really like Gardner Minshew as a person, as a teammate, and he played well last year with the Colts, right? Really well. Pro Bowler, quote unquote. He was an alternate. I think what we've learned with Gardner Minshew is that he plays a lot better when he doesn't have the pressure of being the number one guy. When he comes in for you as a rookie 6th rounder with no expectations, or when he's playing for an injured Anthony Richardson or an injured Jalen Hurts, and he knows that this really isn't his job and the blame doesn't really fall on the backup, he kind of just cuts it loose and he plays free. And you watch him even in plays where he does well this season. And even after we won last week, and Aiden, that video surfaced of Aiden like hyping him up and being like, "Are you all right?" It just seems to me, and I don't know him, so I'm not claiming to get into the psychosis of Gardner Minshew, but it seems like a guy who isn't prepared to take the reins of a football team and play with expectations on his shoulders. And that's okay. I probably couldn't do it. Some of us are just backups, and he's a backup. And I understand looking at Darnold and looking at Flacco and looking at Winston, right? And these guys, and saying we could have had them, or we could have had Kirk Cousins. And, if we sign Kirk Cousins, we don't have Christian Wilkins. Wilkins, of course, gets hurt yesterday celebrating, because that's what Raiders do. I don't know if at the time I would have had I would have picked Darnold over Minshew. Minshew was coming off a very good season, a season better than Sam Darnold ever had. I think the issue was that Gardner Minshew wasn't mentally prepared or tough enough to have the starting job. And I see some people saying AOC, AOC, AOC. And look, as we pivot here to the Aiden O'Connell of all, uh, let me get these few positives out of the way, right? Because I could go quarter by quarter here and blame it all on Minshew, right? But the quarter by quarter thing is pointless because the first quarter we were up 10-0. Gardner Minshew throws the pick over Brock Bowers' head. He was wide open. People were saying, "Oh, Gardner Minshew came out swinging." I mean, he threw a prayer to Brock Bowers. Other than that, he was fine. That pick sucked the air right out of the room. That was it. It was over. It looked like a team that was like, "Oh, Gardner, we thought this was going to be different," and then he just reverted back to the mean. The positives of Brock Bowers, he looks like maybe the best player that was drafted, and Jacorian Bennett. That's about it for me, positives wise. Max Crosby did his thing. Obviously, we know he's going to do what he's going to do. I'm not going to keep talking about Max. He's great. But I see Minshew being most to blame here, and I don't disagree with that. I do not disagree with that. I love what we're saying right here. The cycle of new coaches and GMs has to stop. Give Telesco and AP 3 years to draft and build the roster. Win now is not the way to go, or we will have another 10 years of mediocrity. I agree. You got to give them a chance. You got to give them a chance. Okay, so that pick happens, and then the second pick happens because Gardner Minshew's like, I got to make a play, and he throws another pick. Right? Here's the thing. Aiden O'Connell came in. He threw a pick. I mean, it was kind of off Brock Bowers' hands. He wasn't really looking. He's trying to make a play. Like, the game's over at that point. Him throwing a pick doesn't bother me at all. People can say, Aiden O'Connell came in and he stunk too. It's like, what are we doing? He came in cold against maybe the best defense in the league. What do you expect him to look like? And then the second drive, we went down and scored a touchdown, of course. So as I talk about Aiden O'Connell, I'm going to put this poll up about AP. And the reason why I think it's important to talk about the confidence level of AP is because of what we're going to do with the quarterback situation moving forward. Antonio Pierce has a press conference in about 50 minutes, right? And I believe he's going to say, we got to look at the film and evaluate the quarterback position. I don't know if he's going to outright name Aiden the starter today, but I don't think he's going to say it's Gardner Minshew's job. I think there's a chance he names AP the starter or Aiden the starter today. The reason why I want to talk about my confidence level on AP in terms of picking a quarterback is because if he rolls with Gardner Minshew next week, Antonio Pierce has lost me as a decision maker. Either that or he's not making any decisions, in which case then gut everything because I don't want my head coach being a puppet. The reason why I'm so adamant to flip the switch to Aiden O'Connell, and I want to make this very clear for everybody watching because there seems to be some confusion. And, comment away and vote in the poll. There seems to be some confusion as to what I think the team can do with Aiden O'Connell. Do I think we can make the playoffs, make a run at the Super Bowl with Aiden O'Connell? Probably not. Do I think next year Aiden O'Connell is going to be the starting quarterback for the Raiders if he starts the rest of these games? No, I do not. Here's the thing. If Aiden O'Connell's here and Gardner Minshew's here, if they're the same, if Aiden's slightly better, you play the better quarterback. It's that simple. You put the best players out on the field unless they request a trade and you don't want them to get hurt. This is not rocket science. And I've seen a lot of people say, well, Minshew stinks and Aiden stinks. It's not going to fix anything. Okay, sure. Then if they both stink, you need to play the younger quarterback who's only played 8 starts because either he's going to continue to stink or he's going to show you something. And if he doesn't show you anything, you play the younger guy who's got better arm strength, better accuracy, and has a better rapport with the receivers. And then you lose games, right? Because you're going to lose games with Gardner or you're going to lose games with Aiden. And then you draft your quarterback. To sit here and just throw your hands up and say, well, I'm not going to play Aiden because he's just as bad as Gardner is ridiculous. You have to try to do something to spark the season. Andy Dalton is obviously better than Bryce Young, but nobody thinks the Panthers are now going to win a Super Bowl with Andy Dalton. However, Andy Dalton comes in and the offense looks significantly better. I do think the offense will look significantly better with Aiden O'Connell. Will that transfer to wins? I don't know. Maybe not. But to sit here and say, well, Minshew sucks and Aiden sucks, so what is the difference? Is short-sighted, it's lazy, it's simply not true. And it's the definition of insanity. Just do the same thing over and over again. I mean, what happened last year? Was Aiden O'Connell that much better than Jimmy Garoppolo? Would we have gone 8-9 if Jimmy just played the rest of the season? I don't think so. I think we probably win 5 or 6 games if Jimmy starts. And maybe that's what some people want. Maybe the organization just wants to lose games, or maybe the fans just want to lose games, so they don't want to see Aiden go in. And they say, well, what's the difference? There's a visible difference when they play. Now, maybe it won't translate to wins. Next week, if/when Aiden starts, right? And as I talk about if/when Aiden starts, let's see. Most people, okay, nobody's saying to fire Antonio Pierce. That's good. But as I say, when/if Aiden starts, I'm going to close this poll and I'm going to send you the last poll here. Aiden O'Connell's expectations. I don't know if we're just going to beat the Steelers. They have maybe the best defense in the league. If he struggles, he struggles. But how could it be worse? You have to try something. After the Gardner Minshew interception, I want you to listen to this. Just please listen for 1 second. After the Gardner Minshew interception, we ran 20 more offensive plays and gained 38 yards. How can you justify not making a quarterback change? I don't care if Gus Bradley's son, Carter Bradley, is the backup quarterback. I wouldn't let Minshew take another snap. It's not about saving the season, although maybe that's what some of you think he can do. And did he save the season last year? Aiden O'Connell? No, he didn't save the season. But at least it was enjoyable to see what the young kid can do. It's not about tearing down Gardner Minshew or lifting up Aiden O'Connell. It's about trying something else than what we've been seeing. And AP did that last year when he benched Garoppolo for Aiden O'Connell. And Gardner Minshew has not done any better than Garoppolo. So how can you justify now not playing the guy that you played instead of Jimmy Garoppolo? I just want to make this crystal clear. I do not think Aiden O'Connell is the second coming. But there's a chance he can be marginally better. So why are we not playing our best players? You wanted to give Minshew, the experienced mobile guy, a chance. You gave him a chance. And we're 2-3. It's not rocket science. Do I think we're going to beat the Steelers next week? No, I do not. But the Raiders have a knack of losing games they should win and winning games they should have lost. And maybe there's a spark there with Aiden. And maybe he makes some plays. I saw some plays at the end of this game, prevent defense or not. He rolled out of the end zone after almost taking a safety, rolled out of the end zone across his body, threw an absolute beautiful ball to Jacoby Myers that Gardner Minshew didn't do one time all year. He's the stronger, more accurate, more cerebral quarterback. And if he comes in and he throws an interception, well, guess what? What's the difference then? We've been seeing it with Minshew. It cannot get worse. It cannot get worse. Let's read some of these comments as I try to calm myself down because I feel like I'm being misunderstood and when I say I want Aiden to start. It's not because I think he's Joe Montana. And I see the first thing I see is I think Jimmy G was actually better than Minshew. I don't disagree. All right. What are we talking about here in the comments? We know we have a Gardner. We don't yet know we have with Aiden. Going back to Gardner is pointless. The O-line has been average at best. They need to help AOC in the run game. Oh, and then the run game. That interception was so awful. You can't set up the passing game without a run game. Aiden has showed more heart for his football career. Give the kid a chance. I agree. 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 All right. Let's talk about the run game real fast because this all hinges back to Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. We had success running the ball last week for the first 2.5 quarters against Cleveland, and then what happened? Cleveland stacked the box and said, "You're not going to run the ball anymore. It's going to have to be Gardner Minshew," and that's when we stopped being able to score. And I said, teams are going to do that next week. We're going to have success running the ball early. Denver's going to stack the box. We're not going to be able to score. And that's exactly what happened. We had success running the ball early. Alexander Madison, Amir Abdullah, Gardner Minshew was scrambling. Then they stacked the box, and that was it. The game was over. Gardner Minshew throws a pick. Denver defense goes, "All right, Minshew, beat us." Minshew missed Brock Bowers. He missed Jacoby Myers a couple times. Like, that was it. It was over. And Big Mike, I see you. Aiden is crap too. The run game is crap. Minshew just sits there. If Aiden is indeed crap, then you just got to play the younger guy. It doesn't matter. Play the guy who looks more like a quarterback, even if he is quote unquote crap. So I see a lot of people saying more of the same, slight improvement, save the season. I agree. I don't think it's going to save the season, but I do think it will be a slight improvement. And also, you never ever know what Aiden's going to look like here. If he has a full, let's give him a couple games before we really unleash Aiden O'Connell here, quote unquote. And I'm not comparing Aiden O'Connell to Peyton Manning or Troy Aikman. I'm not doing that. Don't comment that I'm doing that. That's not what's happening. But these are just facts. Peyton Manning holds the rookie record for interceptions in the season with 28. Troy Aikman went 1-14 or 1-13 his rookie year. Aiden O'Connell has played 8 games. Can we please stop saying we know what he is? Maybe he is a career backup. Maybe he's not even that good. Maybe he's a fringe starter. Maybe he's a starter. But let's cut it right here with saying we already know what he is. We don't. We quite literally do not. Do I think he's going to be the savior? No. But we do not know what we have with him yet. What I do know is I haven't seen many rookie fourth rounders play as well as he did last year. Not saying again that he played amazing, but what he did as a rookie fourth rounder, I haven't seen a rookie fourth rounder do since Dak Prescott. Now, Dak Prescott was great his rookie year, 13 wins. Aiden didn't do that. He went 5-5 or 4-4 or whatever, right? Every time AOC was put in, he moved the ball down the field. I agree. I think AOC will help the run game. The zone run scheme doesn't fit with our current roster, forcing a lot of things. Yeah, I agree. Look, and again, I don't expect us to beat Pittsburgh next week. I probably expect us to lose. That's a great defense. But let's just see what Aiden can do. Let's just see. Let's just see. What else do I want to talk about here before we wrap this up? The defense wasn't great. But, it was in elevation. It was on the field the whole time. I guess it wasn't on the field the whole time if you look at the time of the possession. But they just had to do more than the Broncos defense. And, Christian Wilkins goes down in the middle of the game because he's jumping over Adam Butler. Please stop doing that celebration. It's ridiculous. It's just, the defense wasn't great. And they look undisciplined a little bit. The tackling is an issue. It's a really, really bad issue. But, Ja'Cory Bennett showed flashes. Isaiah Pola-Mao looked decent. Spillane is good. Like, we got players. Again, I'm not ever going to blame the defense for losing these games when the offense goes 20 plays and doesn't eclipse 40 yards. Think about that for a second again. Like, you can run one play and get 40 yards. They ran 20 plays and had 38 yards. So, look, we're going to see what AP does here moving forward in this presser. I'm just going to read the Bleacher Report app right now, the Raiders community, to see if maybe somebody has some inside information as to whether they're going with Aiden. Okay, we have an update from Jordan Schultz on the Devontae Adams of it all. He tweets, the Raiders have been seeking a second rounder and an additional pick for Devontae Adams. Per sources, I haven't gotten the sense that any team has come close to meeting that asking price as of now. All right. So we're just going to wait. And then per Schultz, Raiders want to get Devontae Adams trade done sooner rather than later. All right. So you heard it here first. It doesn't look like we're getting a 2 as of right now, but they're going to wait a little longer and see if maybe the Jets get desperate. But yeah, I don't know, guys. It is week 5. I'm, again, trying not to overreact, but at a certain point, I might have to expect or accept the fact that we might not be a great football team. And that's okay. That's okay because we've got some building blocks for next season. You run it back with AP and Telesco. Telesco has drafted very well. You can't deny that. Free agency might be hit or miss, but you cannot deny how great this draft class has been so far, right? And then you see what Aiden has the rest of the season. If he shows flashes, I mean, this is not going to happen, obviously, but if we put Aiden in and we go 12-5, maybe you don't draft the quarterback. But that's not going to happen, right? Or I don't foresee that happening. If we go around 500 or a little worse, you trade up, you draft a Shedeur Sanders or a Milrow or a Beck or a Drew Aller. You draft your guy. You have some building blocks. You put pieces around him, offensive line, running back wise, and then you hope you hit. And if you hit, we're rocking and rolling. But let's just give this regime a chance, okay? Just take a step back and look at the big picture. We're not winning a Super Bowl this year, and it's hard to accept sometimes. But we can be competitive if we throw Aiden in there, right? Hey, Drew Aller isn't trash. I went to Penn State. You take that back. Shedeur season. Okay. AOC got beat up by Minshew. Let's not forget. I don't think he did, to be honest with you. I thought he was better, and I think they just went with Minshew because he had the quote-unquote experience. But the facts are that they've started him first. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Head on over to youtube.com/ALLaBorde Raiders. That's where I am 3, 4, 5 times a week talking about stuff. The AP press conference is in a half an hour. So, we'll see what he says. I think he's going to name Aiden a starter. I wouldn't be surprised if he waits another day. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys. And I'll see you next time.